Welcome, welcome to another Learn with Lo. It is Monday again. The weekend flew by. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic weekend and is off to a great start to the week. If you're joining me over your lunch hour, I appreciate it. Coming to you today with some more awesome, very relevant topic items. I'm going to take us on a little bit of a directional tangent as we continue to move through this concept that we've been talking about with this hormone hierarchy, right? So if you have been kind of, again, following along with our educational series, I'm a very kind of systematic person, right? So every conversation that we've been having has kind of been building on itself. Right? Everything within our overall metabolic health, everything even within our hormonal health structure is connected. I think that's one thing that ends up getting lost quite frequently in more of our conventional medicine model these days, because we have so many great professionals and practitioners out there that are specializing in different areas, whether it's, orthopedic medicine or endocrinology and cardiology and obstetrics and primary care, all of these different avenues, which is great. But then what we end up doing is losing sight of the fact that it's all connected. We're all one body, one individual, and what is happening in one part of our life or metabolism is definitely being felt and compensated for in other aspects of our metabolism. So sometimes it really just takes us, when we get into this kind of metabolic mess of chasing separate symptoms or chasing, a series of different diagnoses or kind of mystery symptoms, it's helpful because we really want to look at more in kind of the functional root cause medicine field of bringing it all back. How can we just rein it all in? Let's start to look at the body as one whole cohesive system. And most of the time we end up finding that solution that helps reduce overwhelm and kind of lets us get back to the root of how our body functions. So that's what we've been really putting more of an image or a picture to that cohesive connection of our body with this concept that we call the hormone hierarchy. So with the hormone hierarchy, it's exactly like it sounds. It is a triangle or a pyramid system where we really have been spending a lot of our time the last few weeks. If you've been catching up on my Learn with Lo series, we've been laying a lot of education around the foundation of our hormone hierarchy, right? The foundation of our hormone hierarchy is anything and everything that encompasses this term we call stress management. So that's going to go into all of the different hormonal profiles that really go through our adrenal health. Things like our insulin, things like our cortisol, things like our nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, sleep, circadian rhythm, environmental exposures and toxins. That is the foundation of our hormone hierarchy. In the middle layer, the next layer up, what builds on that adrenal health or stress management layer, in the middle of the hormone hierarchy is gut and liver health. This is also where we talk about things like the immune system, right? So as we kind of work our way through the foundational conversations we took last week, talking about the different clinical pictures of dysglycemia, or the different clinical pictures that we see of blood sugar regulation issues, and how that can really wear and tear on a lot of people's foundation of their hormone hierarchy. And really, until we correct that, we can't have conversations about the rest of the hormone hierarchy, because that has to be satisfied and talked about first. Then we can start to really understand, okay, as I expand on this foundational layer, I wanted to give us a nice tangent conversation today into a very relevant topic that comes up at this time of the year, which is immune health, right? The immune system is housed and found largely in our gut. So we can't talk about immune health without also talking about the gut health. But if we go back to our hormone hierarchy, we realize that our adrenal health and our stress management and blood sugar regulation are going to be at the bottom of the pyramid. Gut and immune function exists in the middle, and then our sex hormones encompass the top of the pyramid. So it's no wonder that I've kind of been leading us to this immune conversation through a series of conversations first around the foundation of our hormone hierarchy. And it'll make perfect sense today when we start to talk about maybe why this time of the year tends to be more susceptible to immune issues. I know it's called cold and flu season, but it's really something that we've kind of created is this kind of cold and flu environment, right, where it really thrives and can spread on because of our lifestyle and nutritional choices that really encompass kind of some of those foundational things. So we're going to talk about immune health today. We're going to talk about this concept around that I call the magic triad of the immune response, which is stress, sugar, and sickness. Right? So that's kind of where we're going to lead a lot of our time today. And inevitably, it's going to lead also into kind of just the holiday season too, and helping give you guys some tips and tricks on navigating the holiday season in a healthful way, not only just from immune system function, but also even just prioritizing your own health and wellness goals and not becoming kind of one of those statistics where the average American gaining 6 to 8 pounds over the holiday season, and then what that does to us come January 1st, just like diet culture wants it to end up being that way, right? So that's where we're going to start to really kind of take a really well-designed tangent here of us taking the concepts that we've been talking about with the foundation of that hormone hierarchy and start to dabble our toes a little bit into this secondary layer of our hormone hierarchy with the gut and the immune system. So when we say things like the gut, right, we want to understand kind of what we're talking about here. Obviously, the gut is something that encompasses all the way from our brain's involvement with digestion, to our mouth, to our stomach, to our gallbladder, to our pancreas, to our small intestine, to our large intestine, right? So that whole generalized digestive system there, top to tail is what we call it, is going to encompass the gut health. Most of the immune system is really going to rely on the stability and health of the overall gut. So what goes into our overall gut health, right? Why do we have this season of cold and flu that tends to creep up right there around the holiday same time? Things start to get cold. So is it really the weather, or is it the fact that we're more scooted indoors? Is it a function of how we're eating, how we're stressing during this time? What are some of those hormonal influences that really are governing this type of immune system response? So I shared the statistic earlier around the average American gaining about 6 to 8 pounds from Thanksgiving to New Year's, which you may have felt part of that statistic in the past. Maybe you feel like you're well on your way of being part of that statistic. And where are some of those drivers kind of coming from, right? We can't separate the gut from our overall metabolic health. So we have to understand that, hey, anything that impacts the foundation of our hormone hierarchy is going to impact the gut. So when we think about all of those hormones that are at the bottom of our hormone hierarchy, those are also the hormones that not only are impacting our immune system, but those are also the ones that are impacting our body composition. So why is this season kind of that perfect storm of different hormonal imbalances, and what hormones do we find ourselves getting most involved with here, right? So when we think about the hormones that are impacting the gut, we think about the hormones at the foundation of this hormone hierarchy, right? So everybody calls it cold and flu season, but let's be honest, it's really sugar and stress season that is leading to more of a depressed or a more vulnerable immune system. And let's also not mention that a lot of this being related to that inevitable kind of holiday weight gain too. So what hormones are involved? Why are they involved? And then how do we fix it? How do we not become part of that kind of sugar, stress, and sickness statistic that is associated with this time of the year? So major hormones at play here, I kind of gave it away. First one being cortisol, right? So we've been talking a lot about the adrenal health. Cortisol is that stress hormone that is created from our adrenal glands. It is that hormone, like we talked about last week. Cortisol comes out to play during times of stress, energy need, low blood sugar, right? So when we start to think about those scenarios, it's like, oh, okay, so that's where this cortisol starts to come into play. Think about all of the stressors of the holidays, right? Some people are stressed by spending time with friends and family. family is what it is. Sometimes we have mixed relationships with family. Maybe it's even, I see sometimes where like grief and trauma tend to come up during this time more so if we're still kind of thinking about like the loss of a loved one or loss of family traditions as life changes. Also even thinking about the stressors of travel during this season, stressors of finances during the season. Those are all very real, controllable or uncontrollable stressors that we have to understand elicit kind of a more chronic cortisol response, all the way from Thanksgiving to New Year's, which is kind of a solid 6 weeks where we have a lot more uncontrollable stressors on our plate, not to mention how this then probably forces us into a picture of some controllable stressors with what we eat or how we're sleeping or foods that we're around and more temptations, right? So even when we think about kind of this chronic cortisol response, whether it's holiday travel or finances or family, we have to know that all of this is going to have some downstream effects, right? So if we're stressing more, we're probably not sleeping very great. So I would say that this is one of the first areas where we start to see this kind of cold and flu season pop up, is because some of this stress starts to really wear on our sleeping patterns. Even just some fun statistics around one week of sleep deprivation, which is characterized as less than 6 hours of sleep a night, actually changes appetite hormones by 30%, meaning it increases your hunger and cravings by 30%. There's two hormones, they're called ghrelin and leptin, and they're very responsive to circadian rhythm and sleep. So it's just kind of staggering to think like, oh my gosh, if I kind of maybe live in kind of a chronic sleep deprived state, how much that then impacts our cravings and our hunger and our appetite, even without any changes necessarily in overall energy expenditure, just throwing that sleep deprivation into the picture. So it's kind of this like perfect spiral, right? It's like, okay, so I'm stressing more, so I'm not sleeping as well. The lack of sleep is driving my cravings, more access to things like Christmas cookies and comfort foods. And of course, if we're sleep deprived and stressed, we're gonna crave sugar or starches, right? Sugar and salt tend to kind of be those two cravings that our body elicits the most when it feels stressed or underfueled or deprived. So here comes the blood sugar roller coaster coming in, right? And so we have to know that these types of cravings are going to then throw us on some of those blood sugar roller coaster pictures that we were talking about last week, which again, all of this playing into the foundation of that hormone hierarchy and eliciting a gut response, right? Every day that we're chronically stressed, every day that we're eating too much sugar, every day that we're not sleeping well is a little bit of wear and tear on the inner lining of our gut, right? Every time our body sees cortisol's job is to find energy where energy is not available. So it's going to go after your muscle tissue and it's going to go after the inner lining of your gut. So a lot of times I see very, very frequently that stress, sugar and or lack of sleep tend to cause gut stuff, whether it's overt gut symptoms or a depressed immune system or a more vulnerable immune system. We have to trace it back to the root. It's probably not because we're just indoors and it's cold outside, so we're in closer proximity. It's really going back and asking the question of, look, why? Why is the state of my gut so susceptible? And is there anything that I could be doing to make my immune system more resilient during this time versus just rolling over and thinking like, oh, that's just what happens, right? Not to mention, I would be remiss if I didn't mention when we're talking about cortisol, how lack of sleep, a blood sugar roller coaster, more stress, usually means we're going to be reaching for more like artificial sources of energy or relaxation, meaning caffeine and alcohol, right? Those are kind of the two things where it's become like so normalized to just like caffeinate our productivity to get through the day or to, wine our sleep at night. It's like, it's not normal as much as it's normalized about our culture. It's not normal to need caffeine to be productive. And then it's not normal to need to switch to alcohol to shut ourselves off during the day, right? We think it's leading to like stress relief and stress reduction when in reality, it's probably just kind of feeding this vicious cycle of cortisol, right? So cortisol being kind of that first hormone that really tends to come out around this holiday season. It is associated with the foundation of our hormone hierarchy. It's created by our adrenal glands. It exacerbates sleep issues. It exacerbates sugar cravings. It exacerbates caffeine and alcohol use, and therefore also wears and tears at the inner lining of our gut. Boom, immune system dysfunction, right? So that's kind of the first hormone at play here, right? Then we can also envision, though, if that's running rampant, then there's probably other hormones that are being impacted too. The second of those hormones being insulin, right? So insulin is the hormone that takes care of us when we have blood sugar highs. So if cortisol is over here stressing us out, changing our sleep cycles, changing our appetites, making us crave more sugar and carbohydrates, guess what hormone comes into play when we do give into those sugar and carbohydrate cravings? Insulin, right? So insulin is that hormone that comes in to save the day, to bring our blood sugar back down when we enjoyed a few too many Christmas cookies, right? And because of that, insulin's job is to find a place to store that extra energy. Does a really great job at shuttling that through the liver, storing it as a triglyceride, and now we packed on a few more pounds. So it's just that vicious cycle of, like I talked about last week, blood sugar highs, blood sugar lows, highs, lows, riding this roller coaster and not really recognizing how that may be contributing not just to changes in body composition, but also downstream effects in gut, immune system, and just leaving us a little bit more vulnerable too. The last of the hormones that I'll mention before I leave you guys with some great tips and tricks on how to combat this is a hormone that I mentioned briefly earlier too, called leptin, right? Leptin is our overall satiety hormone. Leptin and ghrelin kind of work yin and yang, kind of like insulin and cortisol work yin and yang, or estrogen and progesterone work yin and yang. Do you see what I'm coming, right? So you need to understand like ratios in relationships when you're kind of talking about or looking at different hormone profiles. So when we think about this hormone called leptin, it's been on the scene for a long time, but we may not have heard about it quite as much as we've heard about things like insulin and cortisol. But leptin is our satiety hormone. Ghrelin is our hunger hormone. I always remember it by ghrelin sounds like my stomach is growling. So ghrelin makes us hungry, leptin makes us full. So leptin is very, very responsive to our circadian rhythms. So things like light exposure, things like sleep schedules as well. So you can bet that if our blood sugars are off, or our stress is off, and our sleep is off, leptin is also off, meaning we don't get those satiety signals, so we don't get those fullness receptors quite as much, which again usually leads more to like the holiday overeating, and again kind of a vicious cycle that occurs there. We're going to talk way more about things like cortisol, insulin, leptin, ghrelin, and really how to overcome these things in my upcoming 12-week Revive, Restore, Renew You program as well that I launched last week, and I'm super stoked about. So if, like I said, getting into some of the nitty-gritty around the hormones, as you can see, these are all hormones that are influencing energy, they're influencing gut health and immune health, they're influencing sex hormone pathways, they're influencing weight and body composition, right? So big players in the overall game that we cannot ignore when we're talking about hormone balance or optimal body composition over the holidays, or optimal gut health throughout a cold and flu season, which now we're starting to make that connection is really just more of like, probably like a sugar, stress, and sleep season that leads to the sickness, right? So what are some easy tips and tricks that I can leave you guys with around really trying to negate this and not being part of this holiday 6 to 8 pound weight gain and like sick every other week type of feeling? So simple trick number 1, never miss a protein-packed breakfast. I know in this world of intermittent fasting and time-restricted feeding that there's so much hype around there around skipping breakfast or like just using coffee with my collagen as a breakfast. Nope, because guess what? That cortisol hormone that I was talking about, cortisol is highest in the morning. Cortisol works the overnight shift, right? So it's keeping you from bottoming out your blood sugars as you sleep overnight. So it can't clock out. Cortisol cannot clock out until you eat in the morning, right? So get a protein-packed breakfast, because guess what? That's going to lower your cortisol right away to start the day, which is great, right? It's also going to keep you more satiated and less tempted by snacks, right? So I see this very, very frequently where most people are like, oh, I have a sweet tooth, or I'm a binge eater, or I'm an emotional eater. And a lot of times that's really just our way of not being able to feel or understand or correct blood sugar imbalances. So never miss a protein-packed breakfast, even over the holidays, right? So say you have a holiday party on Friday evening. Do not sit there and save your calories for this holiday party or think you're going to drink your dinner. It's like, no, that day should feel as normal as possible. Eat a normal breakfast, eat a normal lunch, probably grab a protein-based snack before you go. Now you're not going into that holiday party like ravenous and gonna eat everything in sight, right? It's like, no, the rest of the day should feel normal. I can go enjoy the holiday party, have a plate in my favorites, and move on, right? So never miss a protein-packed breakfast. That'll be so helpful. Also, tip number 2, no naked carbs, caffeine, or alcohol. And what I mean by that is try not to eat a carb by itself. You're going to be surrounded by sweet treats, cookies and brownies in the break room and banana bread and all this jazz. Try not to eat a carb by itself. That is a blood sugar bomb waiting to happen. So say, for example, you're like, damn, I really want one of those cookies. Great. Grab a cookie from the break room and have it as a purposeful snack and pair it with a protein, like a Greek yogurt, right? It's like, have your cookie, but like wait and eat it when you want to have a snack versus just eating it naked. Same thing with caffeine or alcohol. Don't drink on an empty stomach. Do not have caffeine on an empty stomach. Like caffeine and alcohol, to try to minimize their blood sugar impact, should stay with meals. Meal is done, caffeine is done, right? So no naked carbs, no naked caffeine, no naked alcohol. Tip number 3, have a circadian rhythm and stick to it, especially a sleep schedule, right? Try to uphold during this season a reasonable bedtime, right? Get to bed, lights out, 10:30 at the latest. Have a consistent wake time, even on the weekends. General rule of thumb is that you should fall asleep and wake up within about a 1-hour buffer, regardless of what day of the week it is. So trying not to have a drastically different sleep-wake schedule on the weekends than you do on the weekdays. That's a very powerful way to help reduce overall stress, and also really, really helpful for overall leptin and insulin sensitivity too. Last tip I'll leave you with is what I call have a Dory mindset, right? Everybody remembers Dory from Finding Nemo, right? And then Dory has that kind of like short-term memory loss type mindset. I always say have a Dory mindset, meaning you're gonna have the holiday parties, you're gonna have the sweet treats, you're gonna have the meals. Try to get yourself off of this beating yourself up, guilt, shame cycle, all or nothing mentality that the holidays can really bring. And all of a sudden people are like, well, I had a cookie, YOLO. And all of a sudden it's just like, now they're rolling those types of decisions into days at a time, because they're like, well, I already screwed up today. It's like, no, you didn't. That's not how blood sugar works, right? Our body has a short-term memory loss. Like I guarantee by lunch, your body does not remember what you had for breakfast. So stop treating it that way and know that every meal is a clean slate. It's a new response. So what, you went overboard at the holiday party last night. Wake up and have an awesome breakfast the next morning and get right back to it. So make sure that you're kind of thinking about trying to make as many meals as normal and not have this like YOLO blow it mentality throughout all of the holidays. So I think that's where people tend to get themselves off the most, is they just kind of assume that Thanksgiving through New Year's is like, well, I'm just going to give it all up, right? And then I'll just start on January 1. And I'm like, if we really think about it, between Thanksgiving and New Year's, there's probably, and maybe I just don't have the social calendar that somebody else does, which fair. I keep it that way for a reason. When we think about like how many holiday meals we might celebrate, like a holiday party or a family meal, not days, people, like talking about meals. It's like maybe you had 1 or 2 Thanksgiving celebrations. Maybe you have 2 different work parties. Maybe we'll even throw in like a Friendsgiving and like a Christmas Eve and a Christmas Day and a New Year's Day brunch. That's like 8 to 10 meals over the course of 6 weeks, right? So very, very small blurb on the radar, and all of the other meals can be normal, right? So I think we just put so much pressure on this holiday mindset, and it's just like, well, if I screwed it up, I ruined one day, and then the whole weekend is just like that. It's like, no, most of the time, most of our breakfasts and our lunches and our snacks can kind of be relatively normal, and then maybe there's a dinner here, but then breakfast the next morning is normal, right? So have that kind of Dory mindset, because I promise you, that's how our blood sugar balance works anyway, and nobody won with that all or nothing YOLO mentality. I see it time and time again, and it never worked for anybody, right? So when you guys are kind of thinking about this stress, sleep, sugar season that leads to sickness and body composition changes, know that it all just goes back to hormones. There's different hormonal influences that are happening based off of our decisions of what we're eating, how we're moving our body, things like that, that our body is just compensating to. It's compensating how it should, right? So it's not that our body is broken, it's just responding to exactly what we're telling it to do. So all of these different hormones of the insulin and the cortisol, the leptin, the ghrelin, right? Again, these are all things that we're going to be talking very in depth about in my 12-week Revive, Restore, Renew You upcoming hormone healing program. So I launched it last Thursday, December 1st. Registration went live. If you guys are interested in this, there's still time to sign up. I'm doing a tiered discount offer for my early birds. So if you sign up between December 1st and December 17th, you can get access to, if you've been following my stories, you can get access to a discount code plus bonus offers where you're getting a free lab interpretation consult with me. And also a $350 discount if you sign up before the 17th. If you sign up between December 17th and January 1st, though, the discount code is going to go down to only $150, and you do not get the bonus offers with that. If you sign up between January 1st and January 8th, when we kick things off, no discount. So if this is something that you're interested in, the sooner you sign up, the better discounts and things like that you have access to, as well as once you register, you get access to all the pre-course modules. You can start to dive into some of the educational content, like you can get your journey started right away. So I did a nice little question box on my Instagram stories yesterday and got a chance to answer some questions about the Revive, Restore, Renew You upcoming program. There were a few questions I didn't get to yet, so I wanted to answer those live on here for those individuals that submitted those, or just people, again, that are kind of genuinely curious. So Revive, Restore, Renew You starts officially on January 8th. I had a question came in, Lauryn, will you cap registration? Yes, I am capping registration at 25 women. So the first 25 women that register, everybody else after that will go on a wait list for the next round, which will likely happen late spring, early summer. So you'll have to wait until middle of 2023 to get in on this again. So first 25 women there. And then remember that tiered sign up. 1st through the 17th, get the best offers and the biggest discounts. 17th through the 1st, I'll still have a discount code offered, but then after January 1st, it'll be full price for the program. Second question that came in is, what does the process look like once I sign up? Fantastic question. Once you sign up, you will have a welcome email that will get you connected to a bunch of the pre-course modules. So there's a lot of pre-course modules that are already up there around introducing the concept of root cause medicine. What does that look like? Modules around interpreting your labs and what you're looking at. Modules around mindset. That's going to be a big one. Mindset and mental health that you can dive into, as well as access to the 12-week strength training program that comes with it and all of that stuff. You'll also get an email with directions on how to schedule and complete your comprehensive hormone lab panels that will come with that 12-week program as well. So once you sign up, you get instructions on how to get your labs done, instructions on how to schedule that lab interpretation with me if you take advantage of that discount offer, and also access to the pre-course modules. And then you're ready to rock and roll. And starting January 8th will be when we kick off as a group. Another great question came in around time commitment. Busy mom, how much time is committed here? What am I looking at as far as like meal prep and all of those types of things that you'll be coaching to? Love this question. From a time commitment standpoint, that's why I'm rolling out the modules on a monthly basis. So in January, the only thing you'll have is all of the pre-course work. And then in February will be month 1, which will be about 5 to 7 modules. So about 5 hours worth of content that you have a whole month to work through, right? Same thing in February, same thing in March, and so on and so forth. So I would say about 5 to 7 hours of content a month. You'll have option to hop on 2 every other week. I'll have a live coaching hour with me over Zoom. If you can make it live, great. It'll be Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Central. If you can make it live, great. Otherwise, I'll be recording all of those bi-weekly Q&A sessions, so you can always listen to them on your own. And then again, from an overall, like putting all of the skills and the coaching into practice, it's going to be very, very much up to you. I'm team shortcuts. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys all sorts of ways to take shortcuts in the kitchen around like making it work for you. What is your system? Are you someone that meal preps? Are you a batch prepper? Are you someone that likes freezer favorites? Like, give me some microwavable, no cooking required, cooking is canceled in my house. It doesn't matter to me. I'll give you resources for all of it, all the way from people that want to meal prep everything, all the way to people that are like, give me the shortcuts, right? So I would say as long as you have an open mind around creating some systems in your own personal life and in your home around allocating some time for menu planning, maybe 30 minutes a week, making sure that you're making at least a time to order groceries or pick up groceries. That's really, I think you'll be good, right? So minimal time commitment, but again, as much as you can invest is the more that you'll get out of the program as well. And then our final question, which I love too, is this a weight loss program? If you know anything about hormones and how hormones dictate body composition and energy storage, then yes, hormone balance, the magic byproduct of hormone balance is weight loss or body composition change. So I think that that's one of those myths that I'm really on a tangent to dispel, is kind of that chicken or the egg effect, right? Hormone imbalances lead to weight gain, right? So therefore, weight loss doesn't necessarily fix hormone imbalances, right? So we have to understand that, so what created the weight gain was the hormone imbalances, which the hormone imbalances were created from my nutrition, lifestyle, exercise choices. Yes. So we have to just trace back to the root, right? It's like, so I want to address some lifestyle, nutrition, habit change choices that then balance my hormone and get rid of the weight gain that caused. Yes. Would I call what I do, would I call myself a weight loss coach or a weight loss consultant? No, and not in any way, shape, or form. I work with hormone balance here, and a byproduct of hormone imbalances usually is improper weight distribution and energy storage. So we have to fix the energy storage signal in order for this to be a body recomposition tool. So by month 3, like month 3 modules of the 12-week course are all about women's hormones, building your weight loss toolbox, building muscle-centric medicine, and all of those different tools really get into that body recomposition piece in month 3. So hopefully that answered a lot of your guys' questions. I'm super excited about this 12-week program. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out via direct messenger or comment on this video, and I'll be sure to reach out and get any information out to you. Otherwise, if you're interested in signing up for the program, head to the click the link in my bio and you'll see it come up right there, Revive, Restore, Renew program registration, or just keep an eye on my stories because I'm posting about it pretty frequently and getting access to that discount code and bonus offers if you sign up before the 17th. So Thanks for joining in on today's Learn with Lo. We'll be back. Actually, we'll not be back same time next Monday because I will be out of office enjoying some vacation time. So we'll be back with you guys on Monday, December 19th, and I'll be excited to catch up and continue to build on our stress, sugar, sleep that leads to sickness conversation as we dive more and more into this gut health tier, which is kind of my jam. So have a wonderful Monday, and we'll see you soon.